Some people are very good at being on time. Others, not so much.
It's an administrative error, but it's on a scale that is quite hard to fathom and quite hard to overstate what a big impact it has.
Last week, Wednesday 14th of August, was a date to save for the diary. By noon that day, political candidates in local council elections needed to have critical paperwork submitted to be eligible to run. But in what's being described as a debacle, the New South Wales Liberal Party missed the deadline for 140 candidates in 16 councils across New South Wales.
I just feel so disappointed. I really love this job.
On the Northern Beaches Council, 6 out of the 15 members are Liberal. Some were retiring, but 4 are now unable to recontest their seats. Deputy Mayor Georgia Ryburn is one of them.
Liberal voters won't be able to vote Liberal on the Northern Beaches this election. And I think that's not only disappointing for Liberal voters, but even if you're not a Liberal voter, I just think everyone knows that democracy is only as strong as the choices that we have. And so for that to be ripped apart is really devastating for our whole community.
Georgia says she did the right thing by sending her forms to Liberal head office, which was responsible for submitting them to the New South Wales Electoral Commission. Hours before the deadline, she says she was reassured her nomination would make it.
I made phone calls to their Liberal headquarters to ensure that our paperwork would be submitted by the deadline, and they gave me full confidence that it would. The deadline passed and we heard nothing, and then we started finding out about the outcome through the news.
The next day came a sort of explanation from the Liberal Party's state director.
So I deeply regret that the Liberal Party, of which I am the state director, failed to meet the deadline for the formal nomination of candidates in a number of local government areas in New South Wales.
But he said the administrative responsibility fell to the party's state president, Don Harwin, and the party's state executive.
The New South Wales state president, Don Harwin, a highly experienced party official and former minister, volunteered to run the local government nomination process. I had full trust that this would be delivered successfully. State Executive completed the final endorsement as late as 10 a.m. on the 14th of August, which was 2 hours before the close of nominations. I was not made aware that the deadline would not be met until it was too late to rectify the deficiencies.
Will you resign, or are you waiting to be sacked?
I'll repeat what I said. Calls for my resignation is premature. Thanks, guys.
Within hours of these words, Richard Shields was sacked. Don Harwin did not respond to 7:30's questions, but in a weekend email to affected members said he was frustrated and disappointed. Another Liberal councillor who's going to be out of a job is John Dorahy. He's been on the Wollongong Council for 13 years.
Gutted is the word, given that it's highly likely that I would be re-elected. I don't know what the process was inside Liberal Party headquarters. Don Harwin is at the top of the tree. You know, is it his position to take the fall? Potentially yes, but as turns out, likely not.
Councillor Dorahy says no one from the state executive has called him.
I've had 0 contact from head office, which is extremely disappointing.
The effect of this error is widespread, according to election analyst Ben Rowie, who's crunched the candidate data.
And I've got 138 candidates missing. It's about a third of the Liberal candidates who are going to run in the New South Wales council elections just won't be on the ballot paper.
He says the makeup of some councils could flip dramatically.
There's 8 councils where there will be no Liberals at all, and another 9 where it's a partial impact.
Now, you might think that local councils are just about taking out the bins, but they're also a career pathway for aspiring politicians. Being a councillor can set you up for state parliament or even federal parliament in Canberra. Do you worry that other aspiring Liberal women and other Liberal candidates will see this process and think, why bother with politics?
Yeah, I'm really worried for all Liberals or aspiring Liberals, particularly people who want to put up their hand at a local government level. This setback or the fallout of this, which is absolutely a debacle, could make people just think, why bother, or I shouldn't, but I really hope that that's not the case.
The Liberal Party sought an extension of time with the New South Wales Electoral Commissioner, but the Commissioner has rejected that. The party is now threatening to take the Commissioner to court. The Liberals argued the Commission issued a formal election notice on its website within 5 days rather than 7 days as legally required. The Commission argues its actions would have no material effect on next month's election. And it points out the nomination date was made public in October last year.
Legal advice is being sought urgently.
Late today, the state opposition leader defended the party president Don Harwin and the state executive. Richard Shields maintains that it is Don Harwin's fault. Is that correct?
He wants to defend his position. I haven't seen any evidence that any fault lays at the feet of Mr Harwin.
Do you stand by Don Harwin?
I have every confidence in Mr Harwin. I don't think he has done anything wrong in this process.
In Australian elections, a deadline is a deadline. Why should the Liberals be treated differently, and why should there be an exception for you?
Well, we're bound by the law. We have to be treated like everyone else. But if there is a legal basis to basically extend the deadline, in effect.
Because the party didn't meet the deadline?
Well, I've been quite candid. There was a debacle.
Ultimately, you're the public face. The people of New South Wales know you as the opposition leader.
I'm afraid so.
What responsibility do you take for this mistake?
Well, I have to explain to the general public what has happened. I, as the leader of the state parliamentary party, am not involved in these operational matters.
The Liberals will now review what went wrong. Georgia Ryburn wants accountability.
I think it's appropriate that we call for an investigation to ensure that that the questions have answers, not just for the Liberal Party, but also for all of the voters across New South Wales, to make sure that this never happens again.